So what is 5S? 5S is a methodology for organising the workplace. It generates a general awareness of the current state of the workplace and highlights opportunities to improve. It does this by involving an objective auditing system which provides a 5S score. It is important to note that this is strictly an internal measure used solely to identify improvement opportunity and bears no relevance to the score of any other organisation or even department. There are several benefits to improvement in 5S terms. For a start, we create and maintain a safer environment. We support process effectiveness as we improve our 5S because it improves the flow of work, reduces defects and therefore rework, and engages the staff at all levels in the area. 5S has a strong focus on visual management and it promotes standard work. 5S is originally a Japanese philosophy for workplace organisation, 5 disciplines that each begin with an S sound. However, the Japanese terms have been cleverly translated into Western ones, also beginning with S, so the name 5S as well as the principles remain. Our 5S's are sort, set, shine, standardise and sustain. Let me just outline the key focus of each one. Sort is to separate what is needed in the area from what is not. Identify items that need to be in place all the time and those that are only needed sometimes. Set is to establish a place for everything that is required in the workplace and develop a method for keeping it in that place. We determine the best location for all materials and equipment according to where it is used and how often. Shine is about cleaning the work area thoroughly and eliminating all forms of contamination. Following this, we seek to prevent any further contamination by eliminating its source. Standardise means agreeing on the standards and work methods in the area and communicating them effectively to all parties. It should be obvious to anyone when anything is out of place or not being carried out to these standards. Sustain means we train the whole team in the 5S methodology. Feedback on 5S performance is visual and maintained up to date. The workplace is audited periodically and the area is evaluated against the standard. You can imagine how these contribute to an orderly, safe and productive work environment, but these are not 5 one-off activities, as the audit function is also periodically carried out by peer groups and management, so this ensures the status quo is always challenged. Shortly, we'll look at how the activity is rolled out for the first time, but first we need to establish a 5S audit system and a benchmark. This is an important step to get right and do first. 5S involves the whole team and an important part of the journey includes remembering how far you've come. There are a number of options for obtaining a 5S audit. You can download our 5S application and implementation program on this site. This program will take you step by step through creating your own audit sheet. Alternatively, you can download one of the sample forms already available, also on this site. These forms have all been successfully used in the past to measure 5S performance. Once you've decided on an audit format, it is imperative to communicate your intention to the whole team. They must understand what the objective of 5S is, how it will be measured, and feedback given. It's also a good idea to make sure everybody knows how they will be involved. So once we have an audit process set up, got everybody on board, and established our current state, we need to get started on the first of the 5S's, sort. The first part of sort is an exercise called red tagging. Red tagging is simply a process where team members sweep through a designated work area and remove any items identified as surplus to requirement or not appropriate for the area. Examples of items that can be red tagged are tools, files, electronic information and equipment and materials. Please note, however tempting, people cannot be red tagged. Each item has a red tag filled out and attached to it and placed in a designated staging area. The information on the red tag will usually include things like what the item is, who tagged it, why, and maybe a suggested action. Red tags can be custom made for your workplace and the 5S implementation guide explains this in more detail too, but again, a generic example can be downloaded on this site that will suit most applications. The important thing is to make sure the items are identifiable and if we're not sure where they came from, we know who to ask. In some instances, a red tag register may be required to keep a track of equipment as it is relocated, stored or disposed of. Remember, there may be items that require some level of authority to make this decision. So once we have cleared out our area of unnecessary items, we need to go through the red tag area and make decisions about their future. Again, depending on the volume and nature of the red tagged items, this could be several weeks, but should be as soon as practicable. Red tagging is not a one-off activity, as we will find more items to red tag as we continue to practice 5S in the future. But once this initial sorting exercise is complete, it's time to begin the second of the 5S's, set. Set is about establishing a location for everything in your work area and defining a method for identifying it. The team needs to think together about the best place for tools and equipment, materials, supplies, documentation, workstations, walkways, packaging, waste, notice boards, everything in the area. A good approach is to consider where things are used, what for, when and how frequently. We need to remember two key points when we are carrying out our first set activity. First of all, the aim of the exercise is to promote workflow, and if we're stopping to reach, walk or find things we need to carry out a value-adding task, this is waste. This is a great time to make decisions with a view to reducing the wastes that are created by transport and handling wherever possible. The second point is that 5S is an ongoing continuous improvement process, and we mustn't allow the absence of the most elegant solution prevent us from doing anything at all. We can refine our improvements later, but if we do nothing while we wait for fancy labels to be printed or contractors to come and paint the floor markings over a long weekend, we can lose valuable momentum and buy-in from the team who need to see results quickly. Sometimes temporary measures are a good way to trial your ideas before more expensive and permanent fixes are put in place. Trialling also keeps the team involved in the final decision-making process. Make use of colour coding or shadow board-like concepts to group items that belong in one location or are used for specific tasks. Once we have everything we need and in the right place, at least for now, we have a crack at the third S, shine. Shine might seem like an obvious step that needs little explanation, but the fact is, it is often brushed over too quickly, if you excuse the pun. Shine is not about a one-off spring clean, nor is it about sweeping the floor every 10 minutes. Neither of these approaches would meet the requirements of 5S. In fact, they would more likely create more waste in the form of unnecessary motion. The aim of our shine activities is to maintain a high standard of order at all times by eliminating not only contamination but the causes of it too. Shine activities also improve safety, help us maintain required regulatory standards and help us maintain the performance of our equipment, which will be an important part of TPM as we will soon discuss. A pristine work environment sets the standard for behaviour, promotes pride in the area, and it helps us detect problems before they impact on our performance. Waste build-up in the work area, especially around equipment, can indicate a problem, hide a problem, or even cause failure directly. Timing is an important aspect of our shine activities. Cleaning our equipment becomes part of our autonomous maintenance program. We still have to be mindful that if it impacts on our productive, value-adding time, it is still creating the waste of waiting or downtime. Once we have our area spotless and some idea of what is required to keep it that way, we can move on to standardise. This is the way in which we intend to maintain the first three S's. There are two key points to standardise: methods and standards. Methods are our way of prescribing who does what and how. Methods are behaviour driven. They are the way which we ensure everything is carried out consistently, no matter whom by. For example, if there is a special hook to store the broom in your office or factory floor, everyone uses it. Of course, this will be more successful if we make this expectation obvious, which brings us to standards. Standards are useful if we want the whole team to follow the prescribed methods. If we make the standards clear, like colour-coded items that belong in an area or a sign that tells us the broom belongs on this particular hook, clearly marked hallways, walkways, pictures that highlight the required safety equipment, it's far more likely that methods will be followed correctly. In short, standards should relieve us of the torment of choice, and the better the standard, the more obvious the method will usually be. So how do we go about implementing our standardise phase? there are a few key concepts that are commonly used. First of all, some of the methods we employed during set, things like shadow boards, marked floor areas, labelled storage, etc., will help set the standards automatically. A cell plan or floor area diagram posted in the immediate area can be used to maintain the correct location for key equipment. Rosters, clearly labelled for their purpose, dated and signed off, are ideal to maintain shine activities. Again, these need to be posted in the work area, not on a computer or filed away somewhere out of sight. We also need a system in place to ensure we are still reviewing the area for unnecessary items and appropriate set disciplines. Then we can move on to the final stage, sustain. Sustain is the discipline that provides us with a ratchet effect for improvement by allowing us to move forward at all times without slipping back. Imagine raking the leaves up in your yard and watching a gust of wind scatter them across it again. This is precisely how we feel when we have had to repeatedly renew our efforts to fix the same problems over again. These do-over activities fill us with a sense of futility and frustration, rather than the desired feeling of accomplishment, which suppresses our enthusiasm for further improvement work. So not only do we start to feel as though our efforts were not successful, we can become discouraged and therefore less likely to make any further attempts. By constantly monitoring and reviewing our 5S practices and standards, we prevent this slippage. There are several keys to ensuring adequate 5S sustainability. First of all, management and peer reviews must be carried out periodically. This ensures fresh eyes in each area at regular intervals, and if managers show some interest in 5S, the focus on it will remain. Second is a review date. All cell plans, schedules and rosters, etc. must have expiry dates, and our 5S audit must include a requirement that these tools are visible and up to date. Visibility. As well as plans and rosters, 5S itself must have a prominent profile in the area. The audits, feedback forms and the history of 5S must be where it is seen by all staff. This is one reason for the warts and all baseline audit we carried out at the start. Progress breeds momentum. Here is a sample of a 5S notice board in the process area. We can see the current audits that show when the audit was carried out, by whom, and how each aspect was scored, with notes alongside describing what was found. There is an activity log showing actions required, who is responsible for them, and by when. We also have the history of the area showing an overall gradual improvement. We also have a roster which shows when future audits are scheduled and who will be carrying them out. The next critical ingredient is team involvement. Everyone in the workplace must be a 5S stakeholder. 5S is a team achievement and 5S improvements are team improvements. The last and challenging key to successfully implementing 5S is to integrate the process with existing business functions. Involve your organisation's quality, safety and human resource requirements. Often 5S is seen as a double up of other tasks already being carried out to meet hazard management or product handling requirements. Nothing could be further from the truth. 5S is all about improving company standards for quality and safety, not competing with them in any way.